Hey class, sorry this is coming a little late. I am recording it for the second time. Something was corrupted file and it wouldn't post the first one. So I'm talking about the themes in the road in this video, and I wanted to talk about three of what I see as kind of some of the major themes that will be open for you to write on in your final paper, though you're certainly not required to limit yourself to just some of the themes I talk about in these videos. You can certainly borrow from one of them or take off and do something completely on your own. So, in thinking about the narrative's structure, I look a lot at, or talk at some length about, it is kind of a relentlessly linear narrative, except for when the father dips back into his past. And that's one of the first sort of major themes, and a major conflict between the father and the son is their relationship to the pre-apocalyptic past. The father relives that past. He sees it in living color. He is seduced by that past, seduced back into it. Especially memories of his wife, that childhood memory with his uncle on the lake. And one of the things you see is the boy's fear of his father's nostalgia. So that sort of nostalgic longing for a past when the boy knows only this bleak apocalyptic present and needs to remain there, and is threatened and sees it as a danger when the father slips back into his past, even through his dreams. So that's a theme you could write quite a bit on and choose different passages from the text that relate to that. The second theme I wanted to talk about is that whole notion of trying to carry forward a narrative from that past, that of the good guys and the bad guys, and carrying the fire and what that fire represents in the text. And I don't think it's a mystery that the fire is something that relates to almost the human potential for its own humanity, and the boy is the embodiment of that fire because it suggests a still possible future, even one that will never recover the past. That final image of the novel of those brook trout and the intricate vermiculate patterns of their fins. There will never be another brown trout in the world as it's mapped out in the road. And yet the world isn't necessarily unable to come back from its nuclear winter. The sun will shine again, crops can grow again. There is remnants of that human future. And that's the first question that the boy has for the man who finds him, the husband and wife who find him at the end, is, are you carrying the fire? Is there a possibility that's still left, especially a kind of moral possibility? And the father, we see when the son's kind of mistrust of his father enters in, it's when his father violates the code of the good guys. And perhaps the most telling scene of that is right at the end of the novel. One of the last things that the father does on planet Earth is he deprives the thief of not only the goods that he's stolen. That's a good thing. They have every right to their own possessions. But the father visits a kind of unnecessary punishment. It's vindictive. Takes away his clothes, takes away his shoes, leaves him naked and shivering. And the boy is appalled by his father. And I think that sort of moral quality and an emotional morality that the boy embodies is important to what I see as kind of the ethos or the ethics of the novel, that the apocalypse lays bare for us, that there is human virtue in the loss, even with the loss of civil society. And the final theme, which is perhaps a smaller one, is that of the novel's survivalism and the boy's generosity within this. So I suppose it kind of plays off of that fire. This is a novel about starvation and privation. And one of the ways you can think about the narrative being structured is times of starving and those few moments we get where they find food again, where they find nourishment. Something as small as that orchard of dried up apples that the father discovers, for example. That's one of the things I remember post that gruesome apocalyptic scene of the cannibals. Just turn something off here. There's, of course, the bunker that happens about halfway through the novel with the bunker of plenty, the cornucopia. There's the house they find that has all those jars of, canned vegetables and okra and potatoes, and it's again, that happens in the final movement of the novel. So you can think about, and the can of Coke, when the boy gets his can of Coca-Cola, which he, again, the father only pretends to drink some, and then the son's like, not like with the hot chocolate. To me, that's just a kind of minor theme. It's the kind of thing that I think would also be really interesting to look at as a sort of sub-theme in the novel. So those are three of the major themes. Those are going to be on the quiz. And as you can probably tell, this is my third location. The other two are listed in the first two videos. I am sitting on my front porch here in Atlanta. I live on Gift Avenue. And the bonus question is, what is it that's hanging behind me? So I'm going to ask you a bonus question. What's hanging behind Dr. Masters? As you can see, it's a couple of blue shutters that I've jerry-rigged to create a little, a little sense of color, a little fanciful touch that I've added to my front porch, which is my favorite room in the house. I tried to keep it a little short. I hope it down to 8 minutes. And the quiz posted will cover first narrative structure, especially the timeline, and the narrative space that that the narrative occupies. Second, I talked about narrative voice, narrative perspective and poetics, the language of the text, and there'll be a question on that. And then finally, what are the three themes that I talked about here? All right, sayonara. Dr. Masters is signing off.